I admire this kid. I think he's got moxie, and I think he's got cojones. And I'm a bit of a beaten old man, but maybe he's the guy who's supposed to fight these things, and I know he'll do it in a literate and erudite manner. He is Ben Shapiro. He's a Breitbart.com editor-at-large, co-host, and that's not one of those assignations that they just throw to anybody over there at Breitbart. The kid's sharp. Co-host of The Morning Answer on our Southern California stations KRLA and KTIE. He's got a new book, Bullies, How the Left's Culture of Fear and Intimidation Silences Americans. Young Ben, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm really proud of the way you've grown. I don't know, when did I first see you? You were a teen, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I was 19 or 20, and you had me on your show. It was great.
Well, I just have to say I'm not blowing smoke. You've really, I can see you becoming a brave, eloquent spokesman for your side of the things. I think you're being brave here because this is going to open a whole boatload of feek on you. But tell me about Bullies.
Well, what Bullies is about, it's about the demonization of the right by the left in this country. We've reached a point in our politics where the left has, large swaths of the left have completely done away with civility. The reason Mitt Romney lost in 2012 was not because the American people rejected his policies. It's not because they thought President Obama is a good president. Everyone pretty universally agrees that he's a pretty crappy president. What it really had to do with is that if you were just an objective viewer watching this election, you thought Barack Obama is a pretty nice guy because Mitt Romney kept saying he's a pretty nice guy. And you thought that Mitt Romney was the scum of the earth because the Obama campaign went out of their way to paint him as a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe. And this is what has happened to political debate in this country. The left likes to portray itself as anti-bullying. They like to pretend that they're the ones who are standing up to the bullies. They stand up for victimized groups all over the world. The problem is that's not true. The truth is that when they say that, when they label us racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobes, that's really just a bully tactic in and of itself.
You know, Ben, I believe the essence of what you're saying. I really do. The thing that shocks me is I believe more than, and it only takes one more than half, I believe more than half the country does not believe what you and I believe. I think they think of the left as the cavalry coming in and doing right. And I think they think of the right as the oppressors. You can't even talk to somebody about the Dixiecrats in the the early 60s, late 50s. They'll just say, no, that's not true. And you go, well, but it is true. It's history. They were the last holdouts. Something's flipped, man. We've fallen through a wormhole.
You know what? I think it's partially our own fault because we still are living in the era where we want to be civil, where we want to play this game where we get to be civil, and we'll talk about the policies that are best for America, and if we just tell the truth about that, it'll be enough. Well, the answer is no, it really isn't enough. I mean, civility is sort of like the Geneva Conventions. You know, when you're in uniform, you get treated civilly. When you're out of uniform, you don't. And the left has been out of uniform for quite a while now. I mean, they've been attacking us with all of these slurs that have nothing to do with policy. They're the ones who have been masquerading in the media as objective journalists when they are anything but in order to attack conservatives and Republicans. And we're standing here still going, but your tax policy doesn't work. The American people, they don't really care that Democratic tax policy doesn't work. They think that we're bad people. And the only way that we are going to be able to combat that is to fight the same battle that the left has been fighting for a long time, which is, here's the problem. You're not a good person if you're demonizing people on the other side with no reason. If you're using things like the George Zimmerman case in order to try and make the claim that there's a vast swath of white racism that's going to hold up the Obama agenda, if you're going to stand on the bodies of dead kids at Sandy Hook and say that if you don't agree with our gun control agenda, it's because you don't care about dead kids at Sandy Hook, that doesn't make you a good person. That makes you a pretty nasty person, actually. And unless we start calling out these bullies for who they are, we're going to continue to fail here.
We're talking to Ben Shapiro. He's got a new book out, Bullies, How the Left's Culture of Fear and Intimidation Silences Americans. Now, listen, we were watching, who was it that sidled up to the front lines and got a smack in the face for it? That
Steven Crowder,
yeah, Steven. I don't know, Ben. At some point, it's almost like Gandhi, like you got to lay down at the horse's hooves and risk getting run over, or you got to take the blow. What's your approach to this, just as Ben Shapiro? I'm not talking about what people should do in the obscuria. I'm talking about you. How far are you prepared to go with this? Are you willing to illuminate how vulgar the left has become by taking their castigation slings and arrows yourself. What's your plan?
I am, and I think that's one thing that, Andrew Breitbart was a real mentor to me, and this is something that Andrew was big on. He always liked to retweet the hate. He's the one who kind of started that pattern on Twitter. When somebody would tweet something nasty about him, he'd retweet it just to demonstrate how nasty the other side is. And I think that's something that we all really have to do at this point. Stephen getting punched by a union thug in Michigan, it showed people that these people are out there. Now, what's amazing is that the left immediately went to Stephen had made it up, that the union thugs were not actually union thugs. They were actually victims of Stephen talking to them. And this is what the media does. We're going to have to broaden our attack a little bit, and it's the media that really provides cover for a lot of this. The media, which pretends to be objective analysts on the scene. Now, look, when George Stephanopoulos can sit there and be taking cues from the White House, he's a former Clinton staffer. It's the equivalent of having Karl Rove as the morning show host on Fox News Sunday. It's craziness. And he sits there and he literally spouts Democrat liberal talking points pretending to be objective. That's a thug tactic too, and they give cover to the people who punch Stephen. I don't think we all have to take punches in order to show who these people are. They are who they are. I think that we have to call them out for it and stop pretending that we're all engaged in a nice civil conversation and that civility is moving in the right direction in this country. It's not, and it hasn't been for a long time.
Well, the only thing I would quibble with in your statement right there was he's not sitting, Stephanopoulos. He's so diminutive, he's actually standing.
The keyboard elf.
He stands during the show. That's the thing that they don't tell you. You can follow Ben on Twitter at Ben Shapiro. How do you dig are you doing it daily now, young Ben, at KRLA 870 AM in Los Angeles and KTIE 590 AM in Orange County? Daily show?
Yeah, it's a daily show. It's a blast. Do it every morning from 6 to 9 in the morning Pacific time.
And what time are you hitting the sack now? You're a youngster. You don't need that much. What time do you hit it at night?
Oh boy, if I'm really good, 10:30. And then Saturday is for sleeping in.
Well, you got to remember, babe, when you explode on the show each day, and you have to, sort of. People say, well, what the callers can phone it in, you can't phone it in. It's got to be interesting for 3 hours, and I'm intrigued when people start it, because when I started it 6 years ago, I had no idea. But something has to happen during the 3 hours, so believe it or not, you do need your sleep, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. No, my wife has been trying to convince me of this for a while. Unfortunately, she's in medical school, so she's up to like 2 in the morning every night.
So she makes you look like you're a sleep-in.
Yeah, exactly. We have a crossover at night of about 3 hours where we're both in the same bed at the same time.
High five, as they say. The handoff. All right. Good to talk to you, young Ben. I admire what you're doing, kiddo. Good for you.
A lot.
All right. Later, Gator. Yeah, he's grown up a lot, I think, and I admire his courage. Listen, I've been candid with you. At 59, I don't know if I can fight that daily. At least I'm candid with you. But Crowder, Shapiro, and I know Breitbart, maybe there's another wind that went out of my sail. I used to dig it when Breitbart was there. He was more, I'd look over at him and I'd say, oh, he's bucking up. I better buck up. But these are the kids who are going to, as they say, fight this fight.